everybody, and welcome to episode 113 of the Alexei Sayle podcast with my guest Stewart Lee. And Stewart remarked, episode 113. Stewart remarked before we started recording, I seemed a bit tired, and I just said I was saving myself for the comedic jousting that was ahead. Really,
you've changed into you've like a radio presenter voice.
Yeah, I've come a laugh. Yeah, hey everybody on. Did you ever do, in the old days, did you ever do Saga Radio?
No, I didn't do Saga
Radio.
No.
And you weren't allowed to say where you were because they just wanted it to be in a sort of nebulous, not to be local, but it to be everywhere. I don't know. This story seemed to make a lot more sense when I started saying it in my head.
What's a Saga for old people?
Yeah, it was kind of, I think it's probably still going. I don't know whether it's still going, but
They didn't want you to say, I'm in London or I'm in Liverpool.
I'm in Nottingham or something,
everyone to feel included.
Yeah.
Well, the problem is that sometimes the specificity of a place makes people feel that they can relate to it. And creating an endless, vague space. I mean, that's kind of what Netflix are doing, isn't it? They try to set programs in places that don't exist. Like they filmed Sex Education, the school's kind of comedy drama, in the Forest of Dean. But they made all the kids dress in clothes that looked like they could be American or British or French. Didn't say where it was and addressed all the interiors in a way that gave it no specific regional character. So you could sell the program anywhere in the world and no one would feel left out. But to me, it created a strange sort of distancing effect. And as a writer, one of the great things about that is, I mean, you asked me where I am, and I said Stoke Newington. And part of the reason I like living in Stoke Newington is because you had a really good routine about it about 45 years ago, which was full of very culturally specific details about middle-class hipsters moving into an area and changing it that was actually universally applicable. And So Saga were wrong, is what I'm saying.
Yeah, they were wrong to do that. They may have changed their policy since this was in the 2010s or something.
They've gone away. The only remnant of Saga Radio now is Smooth FM.
Oh, are they? Right.
It's run by the same peeps. But yeah, Saga was aimed at 50 and over audiences.
God, they do cruise
50 and over. Do you remember when that seemed old, 50 and over?
Oh, fuck, I know. It's like a young person, isn't it? No.
Yeah. I did the 25th anniversary of the jazz saxophonist Alan Wilkinson's regular monthly Stoke Newington free jazz gig last night. And I remember the first time I saw him, he was 44. And I couldn't believe how full of energy he was and that he could still blow into the horn, walk around and things like that. God, imagine being 44 and being able to do that. It seemed incredible.
Well, nowadays, people who are 50 say they feel young or they act young.
Yeah, and I feel much more similar to when I was 18 than I did 10 years ago.
How old are you going to be this year? So
58.
58, right?
Yeah.
A child.
But I wonder if 50 years ago, did 50-year-olds feel young then as well? But they were just constantly told they were old.
My dad wore a little jacket and a tie and nice shoes all the time, and he would put on a blazer to go to the pub, And I remember a few years ago, I was about 52, and my kid wanted to go on a zip wire thing in the Forest of Dean where you had to be accompanied by an adult. And so I did it with him, and I really hurt myself and found it really difficult. And I thought the idea of my dad doing that when he was 52 was absolutely impossible. It'd be he's like a little old sensible man. He'd have been in a blazer and tie anyway, and suede shoes and stuff. And I was doing this thing, but the problem is I'm of the age in comedy where I should be becoming an older statesman. But the problem is, these are these other older statesmen that won't die, clogging up the system.
Yeah.
You're still the older statesman. And us people who are nearly 60, we're still in a pipeline. When will we become the elder statesman is the question.
Well, eventually, you didn't come to the Radio 4 Comedy Christmas party in the end. There was a rumour that you were going to come.
Was there?
Because you were doing because you were doing a podcast with Amanda Iannucci.
That's another thing, yeah.
Another Christmas thing. So you didn't dare
to come to another piece of work, I think. Yeah.
Oh, right. Okay.
Well, I'm desperately trying to promote these over-ambitious run at Ali Pali, which starts on February the 3rd for 2 weeks.
Oh, really? That's Yeah. Well, this podcast will put you over the top. Don't worry.
Oh my God, that is a long run. You've queued me up, so I've been told by the authorities to plug your tour, Stu, and so I'm going to do it at the top here, and then maybe we'll talk about it at the end as well. But yeah, you're doing a bloody 3rd till the 15th of February at Alexandra Palace Theatre.
Yeah, but it's in the old Victorian Theatre at the back. I'm not doing, where Pink Floyd used to play.
Okay, you're not trying to fill that whole thing out every day.
And then I'm off again in a couple of months until December with it.
Oh, you mean you're off? But when you say you're off, that means you're actually on. You're touring then.
Yeah, I'm touring. Yeah.
So you're doing
the show that I wrote like at the end of the year before last, which was about how authoritarian bullies are taking over in politics, media, and entertainment. And a lot of it seemed to be sort of people going, well, it's not that bad. And now I've not done it since November. So much has got so much worse so quickly that I'll really need to do a lot of rewrites and learn them by Tuesday. But it's trying to judge it as well, because there's this werewolf comedian character in the second half who's like American Netflix kind of comedian who like says Donald Trump style things. So the things he's saying need to be a lot worse now. But actually some of them are so bad, I'm not sure people will actually want to hear them. Yesterday Trump was saying that Somali politician from Minnesota had faked the attack on herself.
Yeah, Ilhan Omar. Yeah,
I kind of think it's sort of, it's like a cliche to say this, but the things he's saying are so mad and so awful, they're kind of beyond satire. Although I think maybe a conspiracy theorist type Netflix right-leaning comedian werewolf can probably make the case that politician did attack herself somehow. But I don't know.
Right. I haven't seen the show yet because I think you were ill or I was ill every time we...
Yeah, I had pneumonia. Yeah.
What was that like?
You can come to... What was it like?
Come to Ali Pali, yeah.
It's terrible. I didn't know I'd got it. I just felt a bit ill. And then in the end, then between Christmas and New Year, I couldn't get out of bed. But luckily, a few years ago, the NHS gave me some breathing apparatus for something, and I don't need it anymore. So I tried to return it, but they couldn't tell me how to do it. So I had this thing in my house, and I just lay in bed for a week on breathing apparatus. And then my promoters made me go to medical insurance, and they said, you've got seriously really bad pneumonia, and if you do any work, we won't be able to insure the show. So I had to stop for 2 weeks. But it was kind of amazing. Like, do you ever quite like being ill, either of you? But it's kind of quite... I don't do drugs, but if I'm ill, I think that's probably what it's like, isn't it? You feel quite hot and weird, and you can't tell what's going on. You have mad dreams. Is that what it's like? I wasn't there.
It must be more of a relief for you because you work so much, really. It must be, the permission to stop, isn't that part of the enjoyment of being ill? I would have thought.
Yeah, I suppose so. Yeah, I don't like not working. Yeah.
I think I quite enjoyed having COVID. I seem to remember.
Enjoyed it.
You fill up Alexei, you fill up your time with interests and hobbies. Judo, cycling,
Kung Fu, Tai Chi.
Judo.
Tai Chi then?
Yeah, judo, Japanese.
I thought you did judo.
No, fuck off. No, that's Japanese. Yeah, don't you fuck. That's the most controversial thing you've ever said.
Yeah, that's fucked up.
Yeah. No, man, fucking, that's just Japanese nonsense. We do.
Yeah.
Me and Talal. I'm sorry,
Kung Fu. This is the world's first Marxist Kung Fu podcast. Do it.
Yeah. Was it? Yeah. Kung Fu, yeah.
We can actually come round and kill you if we want.
If we wanted to, yeah.
Did you like that program in the 70s, Kung Fu, with David Carradine? Is that why you're doing it?
No, that was cultural appropriation, I think. No. I think at the time, I probably had I was living in a Marxist communist household, so I think we probably disapproved of it, and it probably was disapproved of it because of cultural appropriation, really.
Well, it's true that he wasn't Chinese, but he looked a bit Chinese. But what was good about it was he had a Zen passive aggressivity, and I really loved that program. And I've watched I've got it all on DVD, and I've read the paperback novelizations. And I think it was a big influence on me because he's quite satirical.
Really?
Character. Yeah, well, he's very. He either doesn't understand why people are annoyed with him, or pretends that he doesn't, and that makes them more annoyed. And and that's kind of what I do in comedy. And also in my life, I've caused a lot of problems by just going, well, why would you think that? Or, if I'm being beaten up, I'll go to the aggressor. Why are you doing this? What do you think it will achieve? Which is what the bloke in Kung Fu would do. But then, and they get more annoyed, and then he just goes and does them in with like one move. The difference is that I just then get more beaten up because I can't do martial arts.
That's where it diverges from.
Provoke them in a passive aggressive way.
Yeah,
but I've got no escape route or fallback position.
You don't have there.
Yeah,
that's great. Like the gaslighting Kung Fu master.
Yeah, he was, but I don't think he knows the character. I think he's just he's like an innocent abroad in the world whose body is a lethal weapon. Oh, it's great. It's great.
I don't know whether I'd have to see I don't know whether his Kung Fu was actually any good. Do you remember Talal?
He was, because every film that he was in, David Carradine, he would do Kung Fu. Like
really?
In Quetzalcoatl, in Q, the Winged Serpent, an early 70s New York film, in which he is a policeman investigating an Aztec god. An Inca, South American mystical god living in the attic of the Chrysler building. He also whenever there's a fight, he does Kung Fu.
Oh, really?
He always does Kung Fu. And in the Tarantino films, he did Kung Fu. So he was very good at Kung Fu. And he also made a folk rock album that's not great. And he had a terrible drug problem as well, didn't he, unfortunately? Tarantino.
I imagine Steven Seagal kind of poached that zenness off of him.
Yeah,
that stillness.
Right. Stillness.
I don't know. I wonder where he got his Kung Fu from then, because it was quite early on.
I mean, he was young when he was doing those things. Maybe
that was the age of Bruce Lee and stuff, wasn't it? So.
Yeah, and Ip Man. Whether I don't know who really. I didn't used to know, but I've forgotten who brought kind of Kung Fu to the stage. Kung Fu, of course, just means hard work in Chinese.
Does it? Oh, I didn't know that. What does the name of the one you do mean then?
I do. You've fallen into my trap now. I do Swan Yang, Sun and Frost, Soft and Gentle, White Crane, Ultimate Fist. Is the full title of what I do.
If the word fist wasn't attached to the end of that, it would sound like something hair product.
Yeah. It's only when you get to,
makes it sound really awful and frightening, because the first bit's you into a false sense of comfort, and then fist comes in.
Yeah. Ultimate Fist. Well, Tai Chi just means grand ultimate.
Does it?
Mm. Yeah, Tai Chi Chuan's grand ultimate fist.
I do Nam Pai Chuan, which is north-south fist.
Yes, I'm a southern style. I'm a crane southern style. You know, Kung Fu Panda has 5 mates.
Yeah,
yeah.
He has a mantis, a snake, a monkey, a tiger, and I always forget.
And a stand-up comedian from Liverpool,
and a crane.
Yeah,
and those are the 5 main animal styles of Kung Fu.
Yeah.
Right. So Kung Fu Panda
is a lot of this stuff.
It's a lot more.
I'm a crane. We're a crane. We're a southern crane style. So there's a lot of this making wings, and you can't really see. But
so Kung Fu Panda, as adepts, you recognise that it's properly researched.
It's authentic. Yeah. Our teacher called us together. During one class, and he said, I've got something I need to tell you. It's really important. He said, Kung Fu Panda 4 is really disappointing. It's not. No, but Kung Fu Pandas 1, 2, 3 are very, they're authentic Kung Fu, and of course the message is, there is no, there's no message of Kung Fu Panda 1 is there is no secret. It's just you. It's just practice. And also, you were saying, what's yours is a northern style, or what you do, Talal? North, good to ignore your guest, isn't it, and just talk to your other host.
You do it before, because when I used to tour with Dave Thompson, who became Tinky Winky, he used to do Tai Chi or something, or some kind of ritual before he went on. Do you think in Kung Fu terms before you go on stage? Either of you?
No, not really. But obviously
the funny thing, you know what? Very long before I ever actually did stand up, I did improv for a long time before I ever did stand up, and I did this improv workshop run by an amazing guy called Tony Anamenwick, who's in What We Do in the Shadows and stuff like that. You remember? You ever see the Trump versus Bernie debates?
Yeah,
where there were two comedians dressed up as Trump and Bernie. He played Trump in that, and the Donald Trump show, the President show. Anyway, he did a workshop called Mindfulness, Meditation, and Improv, and he was like visiting the UK to do this workshop, and the whole fucking workshop was just us sitting in silence, all of us with our eyes closed, focusing on a point 3 fingers below the navel and 3 fingers in. And just imagining a glowing ball there.
The Dantian, that's what we call it.
Yeah, your chi, basically. And just everyone just focusing on that bit of your chi.
Well, I started going out with someone who's into all this kind of stuff. And she took me to some kind of thing in Tottenham. No, I don't know where it was. Northeast London somewhere, above a pub where everyone sat cross-legged and had to think about things. Mm-hmm. And it really freaked me out. I had to get out. And I hated it. I was really frightened by it and upset and disorientated. And then the woman running it said, "Where are you going?" And I said, "I'm really sorry. I was having a panic attack. I couldn't make head or tail of that." And then she got really annoyed with me and said I'd ruined the whole thing. I don't even know what it was. We went in a room above a pub. Everyone sat cross-legged. A bloke whispered inaudibly for ages. Then people stood up and started walking around. And he said,
sounds about right.
You can be touched if you want or not. I thought, I don't even know what this is. And then I got out and then I was told off.
Jeez.
Whilst putting my shoes back on. I don't even know what it was called to this day.
Well, no one had that reaction in my club. Tony Atamanik, that's his name. Sorry for
butchering it. It's an easy fucking gig, though, isn't it? Just to get you to sit. He probably went to the fucking pub while you were sitting there with your eyes closed.
Mate, no, I guess look, if you do it
there.
I've enjoyed meditation over the years, and I think it's a really useful tool to have. And that fucking class, even though it was 15 years ago, stuck with me. And anytime I'm having a panic or I'm getting flappy, all I have to do is, it takes me 1 second now. I just think of that bit of my body, and it just brings me stillness, and I just kind of reframe everything and center myself, and I go, all right, I'm in control. Here I am, and boom, and then. So that is just something that even in the middle of a set, if I'm I catch someone in the audience looking fucking grumpy and I can't stop thinking about them. I just fucking think about 3 fingers below my navel and
that's funny because what I would do is I would notice that person, lean into it and make the confusion and irritation that it had given me that would colour the way that I did the next 10 minutes or whatever. And I would let that happen. I would let the thing, rather than trying to rise above the room, which is a really good way of doing it, I'm not criticizing it. I would sort of lean into whatever bad things were happening and see if the act would survive the pressures they put on it. But the risk of that is sometimes it doesn't, and you don't get it back. But
that would just give me. It gives me the stillness to just drill right into them and insult them in a way that makes them break down. And just
to provide a third perspective, I always at stand-up gigs, I always have the spotlight shining in my eyes, so I can't see the audience.
Oh, do you? That's really interesting. Yeah, because I spent ages in the theatres trying to get the lights at a level where the audience are dark enough to feel comfortable, but I can see them to interact with them. But if it's too bright, which is how they always used to film stand-up for telly, then people don't laugh because it's weirdly, even though they like being in a big group of people laughing, but they don't like being exposed individually, I think. Weird.
No, well, that's
actually when they did, because I was in the Mildmay Club last night in Stoke Newington where I filmed my show, and I always had Wheel Tappers and Shunters Social Club at the back of my mind when I filmed that, which I thought was really good setup for stand-up on telly. But I was thinking about Boom Boom Out Go the Lights, when the first time I ever saw your generation of comics on telly, it was shot in a brightly lit studio where the audience was sat at the kind of tables you get in a community centre, and they had drinks in plastic pint, like in orange and pink plastic cups, as I remember. It was the most awful atmosphere. It was like
well, not in doubt. They weren't drinks; they were just coloured water.
Coloured water, yeah. You weren't allowed to have drinks, yeah.
No, in the studio.
Yeah, it was the most hostile atmosphere for a comedy that now I think back on it, and yet what a groundbreaking moment it was actually getting it on telly. But it looked terrible. Then around the same time, you had Julian Temple's film of you all at the comic strip, which kind of went the other way, didn't it? Because it was kind of sort of a faked audience.
Yeah, I didn't like that. I think it's all, I mean, that's I think the only record left of my act at the comic strip is that Julian Temple film, but it is me, as you say, performing to this fake audience of extras, and it doesn't. I can see. I mean, it's as archive, it's fine because I'm doing the material that I did, but my performance is off really because I'm not performing to a real audience. Yeah. I can tell my performance isn't really working, but that's the only record that there is, I think, of it. So.
Thank you very much. Good evening. Welcome to the comic strip. Now, as you probably know, the comic strip is a whole new concept in alternative entertainment. My name's Alexei Sayle, and I'm actually an alternative comedian. I'm not funny. The thing is, I'm non-racist, I'm non-sexist, so if you don't laugh at me, you're a fucking fascist shitbag. Right? Okay, Martin Bormann Stag Party, okay. I'm Jewish. Say it loud, I'm Jewish and proud. If that's all right by you. I mean, I don't want to get into heavy trips or anything, but, So the only good thing about being Jewish, right, apart from the free Jaffas, that is, or if you're a Zionist, the ability to nick somebody's country because you were there 2,000 years ago. Oh, yes, political satire, yes! This is what we've come from Islington for, yes!
Whenever you see a stand-up comedian in a narrative TV show or movie, it's always shit, isn't it? So you don't get that. They're so hard to portray that same energy.
It's really difficult. Hacks nearly gets away with it.
It was a very low-budget Scottish film about a stand-up comedian getting mixed up in a murder, and the guy in that was pretty good. I wish I could remember what it was called. I remember when I was first on the circuit, 89, 90, Linda LaPlante started turning up at gigs, the TV dramatist, because she was writing a TV drama about an American comedian who got stuck in London and involved in a murder. And I remember she'd be at clubs, and she came in somewhere. It was actually the Comedy Store, and I was doing a tryout spot, and the Comedy Store when it was in Leicester Square. And she wanted to see the dressing room, and the dressing room there was basically, a sink and a chair. And she said, "Is this it?" And she just couldn't believe that there was no dressing room. And then when the TV show came on, the clubs all had massive dressing rooms and all the comedians were lounging around in them. Like, probably dramatically, they needed a place for them to interact. Yeah. It's interesting that she had to change it because it was so shit that it wouldn't have worked on television.
Well, it's very interesting the conversation has taken this turn because just at the moment before I started doing this, I was listening to This Cultural Life with Jonathan Wilson, with Jonathan Price, and he was just talking about the comedians, Trevor Griffiths, the comedians, which actually predated, which Jonathan Price, neither of them didn't really understand the play they were in terms of Jonathan, because it predated alternative comedy, didn't it? It's sort of but it wasn't funny. I mean, it's sort of. Have you got strong feelings about the comedians?
But do you think that on some level, the play The Comedians, in which a guy tries to do material that we would recognise on the working men's club circuit.
Yeah.
Do you think that on some level it gave British comedians a template? Did it fictionally create a version?
No, I don't think it did. What Trevor Griffith's sense was that we were coming, really, and tried to kind of capture it before. But we did. Me and it was before VHS. Tony Allen had arranged for a community centre in Paddington or somewhere to record it on an open reel video recorder in black and white.
Wow.
And then me and Tony and Keith Allen went down and watched this because we were all working, I guess, when it was on. Yeah. We watched this recording in black and white on this open reel Sony video recorder. And so I think I sort of remember thinking this is sort of it, but it's wrong, really. That what we're doing is the real thing, you know.
Yeah.
Because because one of the things that Trevor Griffiths couldn't envisage was where you would do it, really, because he has Gethin Price performing in a working men's club, and that's impossible, really, you know.
But there was a guy that Bernard Manning used to put on that was a bit like that. I forget his name. Trying to do stuff.
And that will be to that audience, you can't. It's impossible, you know.
Yeah, I was on with Mike Harding last Sunday in Glasgow, a celebration of the life of Dick Gaughan, the Scottish folk singer, who has sort of had a stroke and gone missing a bit, but has been found and actually ended up singing, which was unexpected because he hasn't sung for 10 years. But I was talking to Mike about how I was really, really pleased to meet him because before you were on telly, when I was a kid, even as a 7, 8, 9, 10-year-old, I was aware that Jasper Carrott, Mike Harding, Billy Connolly, Malcolm Stent, who was a Birmingham one, Max Boyce, and all those guys, and even some of the ones sort of from the folk, there were these kind of folk.
No, they were all folk musicians. They
were better than the club comics and the light entertainers.
Yeah.
I can tell that. I always assumed they were generating their own material. With Jasper Carrott, I think a lot of it was kind of very influenced by American bits that he'd heard on records and then changed. You know, but America might as well have been out of space then. In fact, Andy de la Tour got an Arts Council grant, didn't he, in the late 70s to go to America,
New York,
look at stand-ups.
Yeah.
And, but I was really pleased to meet Mike because I remember, you know, that I really looked forward when those guys all used to have their own BBC Two shows. Jake Thackeray, you know, at 10 o'clock at night, and they would do bits between the songs, and those were the bits that I looked forward to. I feel it kind of after the death of the music hall. I feel it kind of went into hibernation, and it was kind of buried in the folk circuit somehow, almost.
Yeah, and it was a bridge from the working men's club to alternative comedy, really. Yeah. I mean, it suffered from the restrictions of the folk movement, didn't it? In that it was apolitical, really, and it also wasn't really about lifestyle. You know, I mean, that's what I brought to alternative comedy was the lifestyle and the left wing politics, really. I think, but it was interesting listening to Jonathan Pryce talking about the comedians. So I thought he misunderstood the play he was in. But I think Trevor.
Did you tell him that?
I will tell him. I'll ring him up and tell him.
Oh, he's never had hair, has he, Jonathan Pryce?
Yeah, he has. When he was young, he did.
Oh yeah, lovely hair. In Something Wicked This Way Comes, he had hair.
He's had quite a career. I did a TV thing with him. He was quite hard work. A thing called Selling Hitler.
There's some quite good films where you don't see the comedians act, like Goodfellas, where they're talking about their acts and you never see them do them. And that seemed pretty like quite a good way of portraying the lifestyle without having to spoil it by seeing.
I mean, I always say the only one. I mean, I hate Adam Sandler now, but I mean, I think the only one that really, I always think the film that kind of evokes very effectively the kind of the affection that comedians have for each other is Adam Sandler's Funny People. Right?
I've not seen that. I've seen Punchline with Tom Hanks.
No, that's shit. That's awful. That's terrible. No, so Funny People because it's about a comedian who thinks he's got cancer, and so he goes down to a club one night, and it's a younger generation. It's Seth Rogen and Jonah Hill and that lot, who are a younger generation to Adam Sandler, and it's about that sort of. It's about a comedic legend coming down to a club and actually failing, and his relationship. He develops this close bond with the younger generation of comedians. Rather like it's the story of you and me, Stuart. Really,
right?
But I hate Adam Sandler now because I think he's designed.
There are a lot of sitcoms, aren't there, where the sitcom has the name of the comedian and the comedian is a stand-up comedian in it.
Yeah.
And I think in the Josh Widdicombe one, was he supposed to be a stand-up comedian, but we didn't see his act? I can't remember.
So. Wasn't the Lead Balloon with
Lead Balloon?
D, wasn't he?
One called Joking Apart that the bloke that went on to write Doctor Who wrote about a stand-up comedian, but we didn't really see his act.
Yeah. And they're all awful.
Well, I don't know, that one doesn't feel like they've gone on a very long journey. Write them. Also, Louis C.K.'s, in retrospect, seem to be putting in place a lot of arguments and excuses for male behaviour, which he was perhaps hoping would come in useful later on. But you know, it's sort of it is a weird thing. I'm glad I didn't do it. I started writing a film about exactly that situation that you've described, of a young comedian being on the road with an old comedian who was sort of in decline, and I kind of made a sort of pastiche of various people. I wrote it up at one point as an epic poem, which Malcolm Hardy read and was convinced it was entirely about him, and said he remembered all the incidents happening, even though many of them were things that John Dowie had told me had happened to him, things like that. So I think it got a bit confused in their minds. Yeah.
I always think the one of the life lessons you take from Malcolm Hardy is there seems to be an irresistible kind of pull between alcoholics and houseboats, so that you have to drunkenly cross a bridge, he died trying to row out to his houseboat, didn't he? Or fell in.
Yeah.
And he'd also, I don't know whether that's true, whether his pockets were full of change because he just won big on a one-armed bandit.
Who else had struggled with the houseboat then?
Houseboat. What's his name from Bonzo Dog Doodah Band? Vivian Stansall. He lived
on a houseboat.
Yeah,
did he? And drowned.
He set it on fire. I think it was more. It might have been more of a canal boat, really. I think when you ask, I can't remember who else.
Actually, Jack Russell lived on a houseboat. The stand-up comedian Jack Russell. He didn't end well, sadly, either. But,
yeah.
And Ian Cognito lived on a houseboat, and he died quite young, relatively speaking.
Did he fall into the river?
He didn't fall in the river. No, he died. He died on stage superbly in an ordinary circuit gig. Slumped into a chair. Slumped into a chair. People were laughing and laughing. And then I realised that he died, and I would love that to happen to me. Not soon, but I'd like to climb on stage.
Was he the one who used to knock a nail into the wall and hang his coat on it?
He used to come in and knock a nail into the wall, and then hang his coat on it, and then do. It's full of brilliant stories. I mean, Ian Cognito is one of those people like Malcolm who the stories that surround their life were kind of, you kind of almost think, did they go out in the morning and think, I'm going to create an anecdote today that other people will tell at a later date? I certainly used to think that about Marquis Smith from The Fall as well. The few times I met him, I felt he embedded lies into me about himself that he knew I would repeat.
Right.
I think there's a certain kind of person that's thinking ahead about how will this be remembered. And I think Cognito was really good at creating a legend about himself. Yeah. I don't know if Malcolm did that self-consciously. I think it just sort of happened around.
No, he
him.
did have. I mean, the first time I think I met him was at the old Albany Empire in Deptford, and he'd been in prison for some kind of sexual assault, which he hadn't committed, which he said he had. And the local community did gather round and get him out. He was then. I don't know the details. I remember him saying that he'd been freed after public pressure. And then, of course, he was Jerry Sadowitz's manager for a while, which I can't imagine now. Oh, that's the other thing as well. The opening OTT, of course, my first big break into live television was also The Greatest Show on Legs, that did the balloon dance.
Yeah.
And when I rang my mother the next morning, she told me how much she'd enjoyed the balloon dance. She thought that was the best thing on OTT.
The balloon dance was an act where, for younger viewers, the balloon dance was an act where Malcolm, Martin Sohn, and a rotating third man would do a dance where they were all naked and didn't have quite enough balloons to cover both their genitals and their buttocks, and we performed this dance, moving around. It was ripped off, wasn't it, by sort of club comic acts as well. I think they had to get a group called the Oddballs started doing it.
Really?
But yeah, it was brilliant. And when that went on OTT on television, I can remember. I mean, OTT was a really interesting thing to watch as a kid, because Chris Tarrant, who kind of had the sense of humour of a head of a rugby club in a student union, but nevertheless was great on Tiswas for kids. They tried to bring this mad kids show energy to late night telly. And it was a weird mix, wasn't it, of progressive values, but also really old-fashioned sexism.
Yeah,
and you'd have the Beat on, or the mixed race band from Birmingham, and Lenny Henry, who was fighting a battle for black comics in Britain to not have to do material where they went, if you don't laugh, I'll move next door to you and bring your house value down, and yet at the same time, Bernard Manning would be on. And they were having to kind of sit through that, and also, it was the early '80s, and feminism was a thing, and there were women comedians, but Chris Tarrant just loved gratuitous nudity in it all the time. So it was kind of weird, which we liked as 12-year-olds, as well. But watching that, so it was a mad kind of mix. But it was brilliant seeing you on that, and some of the people.
I didn't know. I felt. I think I felt like I think that I was in the wrong place with that. I needed to be with people who believed exactly the same as me, and that's what the young ones was, and that's what really saved me, I think. But I felt with OTT that it was such a battle every week. I said I wouldn't be in any of the sketches eventually after I filmed a couple, and then I wouldn't. I also went home. They went out drinking in the Hagley Road or whatever till the next morning. I said I wanted to go home. And the first week there was a Jaguar. They sent for me back to London. The next week it was a transit van.
Do you ever wish that you'd joined in more, right? Because I had all sorts of rules about things that I wouldn't do and that I wouldn't go to. And there's loads of venues that I won't play and promoters that I won't work with. And now I can't remember what reason it was that I wouldn't do them. But that's no reason for me to start doing them. But there's lots of things that I took positions on. And I don't know that they've made any difference. I think maybe I would have just had more. There was all sorts of people that I kept out of the way of. And I when I got on telly more or less on my own terms doing Comedy Vehicle, I said and did a lot of things that I knew would make me unacceptable to panel shows or to be part of the club of comedy, because I felt I had to keep out of it to be independent. I felt that I could see what was happening around me in comedy at the time was the world of the podcast was happening. There were loads of panel shows. So all the comedians a generation younger than me were writing for each other on all these programs. And they were also appearing on all these panel shows and writing for each other on them. And then they were also all had podcasts.
It's not all improvised.
Well, it's funny, actually, because I remember I'd do a joke about some joke Frankie Boyle had done or something. And go, and then like 20 like circuit comics from the northeast of England and from Scotland would all be annoyed with me. And then I realised they were all writing for him. It's kind of weird. But so they all seem to be in a big club together where they couldn't really afford to write material that was critical because they were all dependent on each other for support. And partly it made me realise that your generation even more than mine, but we had a certain degree of economic freedom. We didn't have to necessarily do things we didn't want to because life just wasn't as expensive. But it also, I kind of didn't get involved in all that, burnt my bridges with all those people. I'd be on at a comedy festival in Ireland or something and realised that I couldn't go in the bar because it was full of comedians I'd done jokes about. And I'd go off on my own to some folk pub or something. But now I sort of think, I don't know what difference it made in the long run. I wish I don't know, maybe it would have been better.
No, I understand. Yeah.
Find a way through. I mean, would it have killed you to go out to a late night strip club to get a drink in Hagley, on the Hagley Road in Birmingham with Bernard Manning and Chris Tarrant? Would it have been
Bernard Manning it would, but it would have been, I could never have done that. But Chris Tarrant and John Gorman and,
Yeah, John Gorman was another one of those people like the folk comedians, wasn't he? There was a sort of state subsidised experimental theatre world that people like him and Ken Campbell were in that was also keeping weird comedy alive when everyone was trying to kill it,
Yeah. No, it wouldn't have. Yeah, it wouldn't have hurt me to go out with Tarrant and Lenny and Helen Atkinson Wood and John Gorman. But Manning, I could know.
But what surprises me, Alexei, and I don't mean this ironically, because this is essentially your big break on telly, isn't it? Like your first time.
I suppose so. Yeah.
So, like, aren't you just like so fucking excited and grateful to be there at all? Because even back then, there's only like 2 or 3 channels on the television at all. Anyway, isn't this something that once you're in, you're like, I will do anything to fucking not to the extent that you're. That they were a complete sellout, but like, wouldn't you just be so? I'm on national TV. I'm going to do everything to get in with this crew and fucking. So how does that not happen? Because it's your first fucking time on. And I mean it genuinely. Like, I would, if I was in my early 20s and I'm fucking suddenly on the national television late night show, fucking, I would be going out with them and fucking, and then. It would take me at least a couple of years to realize that I've compromised myself and maybe I should rethink things. Like, how did you have that? How did you have that constitution from such an early time? To self-censor
that's very. I think partly it came from my time in politics. I think so. I saw things in a different way, really. And I don't know. What do you think, Stuart? I mean, I do regret in a way being such a prick to like Tarrant and actually getting him criticised in the annual report of Ofcom that year because of something I said. But no, I wasn't grateful at all. I wasn't. I think I was angry with them for them not being better. I was angry with them for being so. Why didn't they just let me on the telly all the time? And I was just in a rage all the time, really, with them. And I wouldn't. I wouldn't. Yeah, I sort of regret it. Wouldn't have hurt me to go out, but.
Well, it's impressive. It's specifically at that age and at that big a break. It does feel impressive.
I was talking to Roy Chubby Brown's tour manager the other day, last year, who used to work at Leicester Square, and obviously, Roy Chubby Brown's one of those weird mainstream comics where. He seems to understand that he has to do what he does in character. So he sort of dresses up as a kind of clown in weird motley. Yeah. He has an undeniable comic timing. I hate it when people used to say that about Bernard Manning as if it excused everything, but the problem is his racist jokes don't tend to make sense. They tend to proceed from a sort of Reform Party talking point that we know is demonstrably untrue. And then they go into a funny bit off the back of it. But what we have to do on the left, when we write a joke, somebody will check it at the BBC if it's on the telly, and they'll go, well, that's not actually true that 90% of Tories have got sex offence charges against them or whatever. And so you have to change that before you can do the joke. But he did say that before every tour, Chubby has a room where he lives full of Post-it notes that are stuck all over the wall, and he spends weeks moving them around until he finds the perfect structure for the hour, right? And I thought, wow, I'd really like to talk to him about that, because I would be really interested in what he thinks he's doing. Because one thing I've noticed on this last tour, I've got into some venues that I don't normally do, like ones run by AEG or whatever, and the house managers have been saying, wow, it's really interesting seeing your act, because we get all these kids that have come through because they got spotted for doing 75-second bits on social media, and we don't tend to see as many finished acts as we do, and they tend to be bits all stuck together that then stop. And so I feel like I'm from some old tradition, and I'd be interested in how does Chubby Brown structure a set? Does he start off with mild racism and think he's got to work towards more extreme stuff at the end? But the fact that he is structuring a set, I think, is really interesting. And I'd love to see what's written on those cards. Is it like the punchlines, or I'm id over here, or girls allowed to suck my cock, or whatever they all like to move around. But it's a Post-it note thing's funny. There was a legendary room at the BBC, which was the last of the summer wine writers' room, where people would go in to try and come up with plot lines for Roy Clark. And the cards were left there for years, and long after it had been vacated, the cards were still up on the wall. And in amongst all the plot lines, Compo rolls downhill in Bath, Foggy goes to betting or whatever. One of the plot lines on one of the cards was Compo bursts puppy with cock. And somebody obviously got in there and put it up. It stayed for years on the last of the summer wine writers' room. Ideas board. I used to find that because when I script edited Harry Hill, he obviously has a sort of ironic relationship with mainstream entertainment, which he sees rather like Peter Blake. He sees it as a sort of resource for art, I think, in the way that Peter Blake liked wrestlers and things like that. Yeah. So Harry would get people like Ted Rogers on the show, and Ted Rogers really knew who we all were. He knew about that. Whereas Jim Bowen was utterly dismissive of it and said, alternative comedy, it's the alternative to comedy. But Ted Rogers knew who we all were and talked to me about, how do you write? Where do you guys get ideas from? And he understood that it was sort of different to where he'd come from.
Get your crazy ideas.
Where'd you get your crazy ideas from? Yeah.
I was just about to mention Harry, because I was imagining what his Post-it note room would fucking look like for his fucking hour.
Yeah, it'd be great, wouldn't it? I'd love to see that.
An infinity loop. Yeah. Post-it notes. Fucking love him. You know what? Last night at 3 in the fucking morning, I was watching him on David Letterman in 1996.
Jesus, really?
Harry Hill went to David Letterman and he didn't change his act at all. He did the lining dazzles.
Letterman used to do bits of it for years afterwards.
After
Letterman
that set,
really,
exactly. He did used to show off his lining for months after Harry Hill came.
He did all kind of bits of it.
I fucking love Harry Hill.
He's a proper comedy fan, isn't he? He really likes the good stuff. Yeah.
Did either of you ever go and do Conan or Letterman or do a 5-minute spot out?
No, I regret that. I think I should have. You did Just for Laughs, didn't you, in Montreal?
I did Just for Laughs 2 or 3 times.
Yeah.
And I did the Aspen Comedy Festival. It was fascinating experiences. But the last time I was asked back to Montreal about 10 years ago, they wanted me to go. And I said to my agent, I don't want to go and do like 7 minutes everywhere. And they went, well, they've got a thing now, you can do half an hour. I don't want to do half an hour. There's a theatre, you can do an hour in it. I went, well, I don't really want to do an hour.
What did you want to do?
Do 2 hours, And they went, all right. And the bloke was really desperate to have me. And then I said, also, I don't want to be on mixed bills, because they like to put you on mixed bills with other people. Because I didn't really, when I went before, I really didn't like most of the American acts. They seemed like bullies and gangsters, and they did just shit about how they hated Mexicans and gays and things like that. And I was really I really didn't like most of it.
And Arabs.
And I didn't like the people. And Arabs. Anyway, then I just didn't want to go in the end, because I was doing dates here, and I just don't think they'd ever been turned down. And they got quite annoyed about it. But I remember being on with Bobby Slayton, who, if you know him at all, you'll know him. He plays a casino manager in the Scorsese film Casino. He does it very well, actually. But he's like a leathery kind of guy who looked like a porn star, And he had this bit about Mexicans all being stupid. And I remember saying to him afterwards, I said, well, you can say that, but then the South American civilization that predates the European conquest is incredibly sophisticated. There's this architecture, there's an understanding of astronomy, And he goes, yeah, well, fuck that. They had this show called The Nasty Show at night, which was supposed to be the saying the unsayable.
What is it?
Show.
The Nasty Show, did you say?
Nasty Show, yeah. The saying the unsayable show. And the problem is, what we've seen, and this is partly what my current tour is about, is those people saying they hated Mexicans and women and gays and trans people and everything and immigrants. They imagined they were saying the unsayable because it felt to them like they lived in a liberal consensus. But those people are still all saying that. And yet now those ideas, particularly in the States, are the views of government. And they're the views here of the newspapers, and they're the views of the people in power. And the Labour Party, Alexei, as you said, and I was one of the people that said, no, it'll be all right. They have moved towards the right to accommodate those ideas and acquiesce towards them and think that they can somehow get the people that support them on board, if only they, can...
Shittier to immigrants, yeah.
Yeah. And so it's sort of... That's why the only person that was any good on the Nasty Show was... Mike Wilmot, who used to do an act about being frustrated with his wife and women generally, but it was clearly about his own love for his wife and his feelings of inadequacy, whereas Bill Burr's act, to me, just seemed like misogyny. And if it wasn't meant to be, it certainly was being received as such by an audience of men going, yeah, Bill, fuck those bitches, fuck them. So it was kind of... I just didn't like it, And I also thought, I remember being on a bill there with Andy Parsons and Russell Howard, and they seemed so much better than their American equivalents. It was just, it was, I'm sure there were some good ones, but on the whole, and I think it's taken a really bad turn in that country where stand-up now, through the filter of Joe Rogan, has become part of the means of control by which people are made to feel threatened. And it's part of what enforces the sort of Trumpy values, from what I can see. And this week I've been trying to write something about how should culture respond to what's happening, and is it beholden to us? Do we have a sort of duty to comment on it? And I've got to file a column for The Nerve today, Carol Codwaller's Observer continuity outlet for all the people that were sacked or quit at the Observer when it got bought. And I kind of had it last night that people weren't stepping up to the plate. And then this morning I woke up and Springsteen's done a song, and which will, put him in the crossfire. And lose him a lot of fans, but he's written a song about Minnesota. Billy Bragg has as well. Yeah, he's got it. He's wrote it on Saturday, recorded it on Sunday, released it yesterday. And it's one of the, it's very explicit in its condemnation of King Trump. And Philip Glass has just withdrawn his latest opera from the Trump Kennedy Center, which will come as a huge disappointment to all the MAGA who I know love serial minimalism, but I do feel like they are starting to step up to the plate. So I was thinking about how This is what I'm trying to write about, how, free Nelson Mandela by the specials. No, people of my age didn't know who Nelson Mandela was, and then suddenly you did. And then you thought about apartheid. And that was a moment where I think popular culture did make a real difference. So, I'm sort of wondering what will happen. And I don't, all those kind of comedians at Montreal, they seem to me like MAGA in waiting.
Yeah.
Reactionary people in waiting. And even the ones that we seem to have some liberal values, like Dave Chappelle talks such a load of rubbish about playing in the Riyadh Comedy Festival.
Bill Burr as well.
That's great.
You seemed, yeah. Well, because my experience was just where I was filming there, I think in like 1990, and just went down the Comedy Store, and I was just astonished, compared to the Comedy Store here, that they were all doing, racist and misogynistic material, really poisonous shit,
Yeah.
I was surprised.
May I just say, if any TV execs or bookers are listening, I, Talal Karkouti, if given an opportunity, will be grateful for it. Actually, unlike these two louts, I will acquiesce. I'll go out drinking with the crew till 4 a.m. and do as I'm told for the opportunity. Thank you very much. Carry on, Alexei, what you say?
Yeah, no, I don't. don't learn the cameraman's name and the lighting guy. Don't. I would sometimes pal up with some weirdo, like an assistant wardrobe. Yeah. I'd sometimes become best friends with them and everybody. I was
thinking about this, and I don't know what you think about this, Tal, but I think that, comedy was, to me, the stand-ups were people like you, Alexei, square pegs in round holes. People had a different view of the world because they didn't fit in. Mm-hmm. They weren't clubbable, they weren't companionable, they were outsiders. And that's what I liked about it. And one of the reasons I wanted to do it was because I didn't want us to join in with the world. Now, partly because of how social media works, everyone's obliged to be a personality and cooperate and be able to fit in. And you have to have a much bigger skill set for Talal's generation of being able to do all kinds of things and be yourself and be sort of a lot of people's acts, particularly with young men, seem like it's an advert for them to be your boyfriend, which yours definitely wasn't.
No.
I just think it's become like you have to be a nice all-rounder sort of person, whereas actually before it seemed like a haven for people that probably might not have been able to do anything else. Almost.
Yes, extremely dysfunctional. That's what I was going to say before about the Radio 4 Comedy Christmas Party that you didn't come to. That I am Nicholas Parsons now. I was the oldest. I was the senior comedian there now. I mean, I only do 4 shows every 2 years for Radio 4 now, but I mean,
it feels like more because they make such an impact when people talk about them. It feels like more.
Yeah.
Also, there are probably meetings where they're accused of bias, and they go, "I think you'll find we have Alexei Sayle on Radio 4, so I don't think we are biased."
Well, that's Linda thinks that's the sole reason why they have me on is to say that. Yeah.
Linda's often disparaging about your work, doesn't she?
Linda, yes. And me personally.
When you were coming back, she said, "Don't do a comeback because people will remember you fondly and you'll spoil that if you come back." I think something like that.
Yeah, she said dilute the legacy. Yeah.
Diluting the legacy, yeah.
I don't know what you mean by the younger, people my age, like fucking James Acaster and Nish Kumar and all that lot. They're old now.
I know they are old.
My favorite gigs to get booked on, and I don't gig a lot in terms of stand-up. I have my chunk of material that I've been doing for years and it works, and I don't put it online or anything so that I can keep fucking doing it. I'm not, that's my shtick. But my favorite gigs to get booked on are the ones run by 20-year-olds and 25-year-olds. These guys, they are fucking cool, and they are not advertising themselves to be your boyfriend. And
in a way, I hesitate to make generalisation about it because I'm aware now that I am out of touch. And the only time I see loads of comics, because I'm doing my own shows, is if I'm on benefits or mixed bills. Like I was on with you, wasn't I, at Christmas?
Yeah, it was great.
Yeah,
Reading in Hexagon, yeah.
We did the 9 Lessons in Carol.
Yeah.
Yes.
Oh, no, talking to him.
So
I can't tell who you're looking at because
I know there was
we're on a flat screen.
He was on who I'd never seen. He was really good. And I thought, oh, she must be new. And then I realised she'd done about 3 full-length shows. She's the sort of acts that I would have really known about. I always get criticised for slagging people off, but it seems to me that I spend a lot of time saying how great I always think the comedians that I see are. And I thought she was great. And I'd
say her name again. I think it got a bit muffled when you said it.
Is that her name? Chelsea Burke.
That's us, isn't it? Say that again.
Chelsea Burkby, I think she was called.
Oh,
Chelsea
she was brilliant with the PowerPoint.
Yeah, so I see people like that, and then I think, maybe people are freed up now by the fact that economic security is so far beyond the dreams of anyone in their 20s or 30s that there's no point trying to play the game. I don't know. I mean, but there was a period where it all seemed very inter-knee sign, and I like the fact that I think I was old enough to remember when Alexei's generation started. It was very explicitly critical of the previous world of comedy, and it had parodies of both the Oxbridge sketch type comedies and of the working men's club comics, and it's sort of defined its terms in opposition. And I think I was still sort of doing that after a lot of those battles had become irrelevant to most people,
Look, before we get too late, I need to mention your tour again, please, Stu. Do you mind?
Oh, yeah. I'm at Stewart Lee versus the Man Wolf, and I'm at Ali Pally in North London, Alexandra Palace, for 2 weeks, first 2 weeks of February. I think there's some tickets left. And then I'm on the road in Britain and Ireland, on and off from about March to December. And the show is ever evolving. As the world gets worse, it only gets funnier. I'm like a horrible parasite feeding off human misery. I punch the air every time there's some ethical disaster. It's lucky though, because I had a show about, I forget which one it was, but the plot line was very much about Brexit and Boris Johnson, and I had about 6 months left of it, and it was during that period where it looked every week it looked like he was going to be sacked or quit or go to prison or something. And every time he'd just walk away from some disaster, I was going, oh, yeah, he's still in there. It's got a whole end. Then he actually quit about 2 weeks after I finished the show. But this one, the news is accelerating towards it at such a rate. It's quite hard to make it awful enough. So we'll see.
Well, look, for more information and the full tour schedule, I think it's from May. You said March. I think from May onwards, you're fucking hitting it hard, and you're basically going to every corner of this
You've been doing Leicester Square and
let me finish the plug.
Oh, sorry.
Go to StewartLee.co.uk.
I don't want people to see him. Why would I allow you to plug his shows? Go on. Say it again.
Fuck, I'm torn now. Who do I acquiesce to? No, go to StewartLee.co.uk for info and tour schedule. Find out if he's coming to a town near you. StewartLee.co.uk. Support the Alexei Sayle podcast as well. Please go to patreon.com/Alexei Sayle podcast. Chuck us a couple quid a month. It's really not much, and you get to see full video episodes and all the other exclusive bits and bobs that we put up on there. Patreon.com/Alexei Sayle podcast.
If this goes out, Alexei, you need to look at what is hanging up on your wall there behind you, in case it's important personal information.
Never. That's been up there for months. That's never.
But they do. They zoom in on things.
Oh shit!
There's Linda's pass from your party confounding conference.
Mm-hmm.
Well, someone might be used to any fraudster.
I don't know. You need to be careful.
Go back in time. There is a password there, but it is sort of I think it's a Wi-Fi password to something, to a box that's no longer.
You know, I've looked. There's nothing. You can see I've got a list of things I've got to do, but nothing. I'm not giving anything away here at all.
No, it's an interesting point you make. How is it? So I feel like, how are you doing? How are you? How is it all going and stuff? And you still have the energy.
It's going really well, and it's been really good for me personally because I've had to do. I'm not a natural athlete like you, and I've had to do an hour every night. The second hour is me in a really heavy costume running around. So I've lost quite a lot of weight, and I found that when I'm not doing the show, I have to go and do things like cycle or do stuff because I've got used to the endorphins of it. So it's been really good. Also, about halfway through when I change into the costume, I feel like the show's done and I stop worrying about it, and this other character takes over. And it's also it's a really kind of weirdly quite upbeat, I think, because the subject material is so bad, you kind of play against it. So it's actually been a show that makes me happy to do and fit, whereas a lot of my shows make me depressed to do and are stressful and make me ill. And, I suffer for them, and so do the audiences. But this one is actually really good fun, and I really love doing it. And it's also made me think about, because I do quite a lot of physical comedy in it, which is not something I'd ever done. And it's made me think about big ideas for the next one. The next show I want to write specifically about national identity in the UK. I want to use loads of flags. I want to use massive costumes, Morris dancers. You know, it's given me a new way of thinking of doing things in my late 50s, which I wasn't expecting. So yeah, it's great. And
I always thought that was what was impressive about you, so how you evolved really from, I tell the story. I was in a taxi after recording of OTT with some club comic, and he didn't know, and he said, "What you do?" And I said, "I talk about, social issues and politics, but there's always a subversive kind of surrealist there, that I perhaps borrow from the situation." And he said, "Oh, you're a patter merchant."
Patter merchant.
You're a patter merchant. That's what you are.
Yeah,
like, Spesh Act or whatever.
I'm a patter merchant. I'm a patter merchant now.
Well, you were a patter merchant, weren't you, when you first started? But you've become so much more now that you've.
That's very kind of you. Well, I'll tell you what I always partly think is, everyone's broke. There's loads of cuts everywhere. There isn't, the BBC isn't doing its job of educating, entertaining, and informing. And if you go to some town that people don't believe you ever play at because it was a Brexit vote, Brexit supporting town, and you do what's nominally a comedy show, and people go, "Oh, I'll go to that. I like comedy," but you can put in weird bits of surreal art or old-fashioned physical comedy, or I kind of think you can subversively get theatre and art and things like that into a comedy show, and people go away having seen something they wouldn't have thought that they would have liked, and they wouldn't have gone to if it had been Samuel Beckett.
Absolutely, yeah.
I think that's the trick now, and it's going to get interesting if and when Reform get in, because obviously one of the things they'll do is cut funding for regional theatres. They'll lean on what's being programmed, like Trump does in America. When I was on with Dick Gocken and all these lefty folk singers last week in the big publicly funded venue in Glasgow, I thought this is exactly the kind of thing that wouldn't make its way onto the programming if places like the Royal Festival Hall are subject to the whims of a right-leaning dictator that the Kennedy Center has been. You know? So it's sort of it's an interesting time to be trying to do that kind of work. Could be a bit of a shock. I think that some of these publicly funded venues are trying to future-proof it a bit. There seems to be suddenly a lot more plans about outreach to different regions and different communities. I wonder if they're trying to make themselves impregnable to the suggestion that will come from Reform, that they're only there for the elite.
Right.
Certainly that's one of the things that Vance was saying in America. He said that we didn't need culture because culture was just a way for elites to show that they were better than ordinary people because they understood culture. I mean, there's something in him.
It's not entirely wrong.
No. But it's not available to a lot of people, and that's why they're not.
Yeah.
And I was in Finsbury Park with Sami Abuwerde we're doing some promotion for his show.
Oh yeah,
which is at the Park Theatre, and there's a huge Algerian population in that area, in that fucking area, London, massive Algerian population, and Park Theatre have this cultural outreach program thing they do, but they don't have anything specific to Algerians who are in the neighborhood on the doorstep, which I think is a missed trick. I wish we'd see more of that.
Well, in Birmingham, at the Rep, for example, they were always trying to do outreach to Muslim and Sikh communities and whatever, and think, what theatre do people want to see that are not coming here when there's such a significant proportion of the city? And then what kind of happened was it sort of took care of itself once those communities became middle class or had money, because one of the things people do when they've got a bit of money is they define themselves in terms of their cultural, what they consume culturally. So it was a kind of weird thing where, you have to do outreach, you have to you have to try and do stuff that's relevant to people, but also there's a kind of thing where you also things have to be affordable for people. Things have to be accessible in that way. And I mean, that's again is one of the good things about stand up is that. I mean, when my son did Waiting for Godot for GCSE or A level, anyway, I looked, was there a production of it on? And when I did it for GCSE or A level, I saw it about 4 times in a year. I saw a student production at Birmingham University. I saw one at Solihull Technical College. I saw 2 theatre and education touring ones, and they were all either free or 50p, and the set was a stick in a bucket, and they were all great. But the only Godot that was on anywhere in the south of England when all the kids were doing it on that syllabus for their exams was the one with the Paddington Bear bloke in the West End. And it was, 60, 70 quid starters. No, I took my son, obviously, because I'm a champagne socialist and I can afford that. But loads of people wouldn't be able to. I just saw a brilliant Othello in the West End with Toby, from Captain America, and it was really, really good. But it was expensive, and so but stand up, we can. Unless you're with Avalon and you're charging like 90 quid for Greg Davis, you can keep it at a cost-effective level. You can keep it down, and I do my. I'm not saying I'm better than everyone, but I do my tickets the lowest the theatres will allow me to, basically, and I still do all right out of it. And it helps the theatres because there's comedy audiences come in large numbers and drink a lot, and you kind of feel like it was meant to be an accessible art form that people you could load other stuff into it because
that was always my intention.
Yeah.
You say that now, Stu, but think about the Morris Dancer budget you're going to have for your next show.
Yeah, but what I do, I use different Morris dancers in every town. I use the local one, right? You don't
have to get to know them and travel with them in a fucking van.
We had the Forest of Dean Morris men. They didn't even. They were like 100 quid, and that was they didn't even want anything because they like to promote Morris. But they're really good value Morris dancers. Because they love it. They love dancing so much. So I use a different one every town. There's loads of great sides now. They call them as well, with like very specific looks and political agendas and whatever. And funny enough, I was at the Whittlesea Straw Bear Festival the other week, which is a little village near Peterborough where once a year people dress up in these straw costumes and parade around the town. And they obviously would have been sacrificed for the new year in the old days, but they're not anymore. And Morris dancing sides come from all over the country. And Morris dancing sides now, there'll be a trans side or a pagan side or lots of all women sides, which you never used to have. But they're doing it in this little, town near Peterborough, which has obviously got red crosses painted on the walls and reform posters in the pubs. And a lot of the metropolitan liberal elitist folk dancers were a bit freaked out by it. And it also was interesting because
it's fascinating.
They spent a lot of time trying to detoxify folk culture, but you put it into that environment, everyone panics about it again.
Yeah. It's fascinating. Well, I think we should let you know. I think we've laughed less than on your previous outing.
Sorry,
we've but I think we've gone deeper in terms of subject matter.
We've learned more,
So we've laughed less, but we've learned more. Because I think the last time it was just me laughing hysterically,
Yeah, but I think you seem a bit. Are you all right? Sure. You seem a bit tired.
Yeah. You said that. I picked up in the middle, didn't I? But I've sort of. I think I'm all right. I mean, I'm obviously. Well, I'm 73, so.
Yeah, but Dave Brock from Hawkwind is 84, and he's still fronting a state rock band. So the main bloke from the Sun Ra Orchestra, Paul Marshall Allen, has just released his first solo album at the age of 101.
Fuck me.
Yeah. He's finally realised that they were holding him back, the others.
I think, I'm not. I should tap into me.
Well, you're doing all that
and get that golden ball. I've got to go through notes with Linda later afterwards, and
then you've got that zip wiring you're doing later this afternoon as well, Lex.
No, I think I'm saving myself a bit because I've got to go through. I've got to do the final edit on my fucking book. But I think we've gone deeper. We've gone deeper than we did last time. We're getting, it's more.
I think it's good.
It's more profound.
Did you enjoy yourself with us, Stewart Lee, today?
Yeah, I did. I listened to Robin on it last week as well.
Yeah,
Robin is
brilliant.
Yeah.
He knows he knows about all the young ones, doesn't he? He mentions all these people.
He's great. I mean, he's an incredible cog in the machine of the circuit. Yeah. Certainly, when I had a period where I didn't know what I was doing, about 20 years ago now, 25 years ago, Robin was trying to create spaces where people could do slightly different kinds of things.
Yeah.
And he sort of, there was a phrase that my friend, the sort of performance artist Ben Moore used to me once, which is the second mouse gets the cheese. And he was talking about how the first mouse goes through and sets off all the traps, and it's adventurous and bold, but it gets, doesn't get anywhere. And then the other one comes through afterwards and picks up all the cheese that's left because the first mouse.
Oh, right.
And I think, Robin's a good example of first mouse. The second mouse gets the cheese. He's quite a pioneer in terms of thinking about new ways of doing things and trying to create new spaces. But then other people kind of move through and benefit from his work in a way that he doesn't necessarily, because he just sort of he's on to the next thing by then.
Yeah, that's a very good point. We will come and see your show at Alexander Palace. Right. It's a bit of a nightmare to get to, Alexander.
I know. Palace. I was really worried that it was a mistake because I thought people might come in from out of London, and I don't know if they do. It's
they get there for is it the snooker, the darts they have there, so they can find their way.
It's got snooker and darts on at the moment.
Yeah. So they find the people of Britain, the provincials, find their way. And they're usually dressed as fucking bananas, aren't they? Or nuns or dinosaurs, and they still manage to make their way to Alexander Palace. So
we'll do it for you, Stu.
All right, comedy.
So we'll speak to your promoter and come and see you at Alexander Palace, I think,
if you'll have us. Thanks so much, Stu. One last time, stewartlee.co.uk. Get all the info about the tours, please. Patreon.com/alexeisaylepodcast as well. All right, last words, Lex.
Bye-bye. Thank you, Stuart. Bye-bye. Bye-bye. You've been listening to the Alexei Sayle podcast. This show is produced and edited by Talal Karkouti. Music by Tarbush Records. Thanks to Audio Boom for hosting us. Please keep your emails coming in at alexeisaylepodcast@gmail.com. Goodbye.